Hi, everybody, and welcome to EDA Summit. I hope that you're enjoying the sessions. And today we're going to talk about how PubSub Platform is driving EDA adoption within our enterprise and talk about the IKEA Experience. My name is Shawn McAllister. I'm the Chief Technology and Chief Product Officer here at Solace. And joining me today, we're lucky enough to have Martin Hilferink, who is a Senior Technology Architect at IKEA. So welcome, Martin, and thank you for joining us and sharing your experience with our audience.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shawn. Hello, everyone.
Okay, so let's jump right into it. This session we've divided into 4 sections. First, we'll start talking about events and the adoption and the importance of events in the enterprise. Then we'll talk about PubSub Platform, and I'll give you a quick demo. Then Martin's going to talk about EDA adoption at IKEA and the IKEA event mesh. And then we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. So please stick around. That's always a great time to hear what's on your mind. Now, at Solace, we fundamentally believe that events are the lifeblood of the modern enterprise. We believe it. More and more enterprises are agreeing and are taking action to build an EDA foundation within their architecture. And in this era of constant large-scale disruption, rising consumer expectations, the race to innovate, it's really no longer a question of whether to embrace and adopt events, but when to do it and how to do it well. And what I'd like to do is to start off with some examples of customers that we've worked with, leaders in various industries who have adopted an event-driven approach and the changes that it's made to their business. Now we'll start off with capital markets because that's really where Solace started. And we started at a time when capital markets was becoming electronic, was becoming real time, and they had a need to distribute prices in real time very broadly throughout their ecosystem, because if you're going to buy a stock today, you need to see what the price is right now, not yesterday. And so they needed to disseminate, in this case, price information in real time, very broadly to their users. And those are events, so that I can then issue an order, that's an event, and that would result in a trade, yet another event. And this real-time event distribution has completely transformed and revolutionized capital markets. So you no longer get on a phone with a broker and get charged $100 to execute a trade. You can now do it from a browser and see real-time prices, execute a trade for $5 or $10. It was completely revolutionized capital markets. Connected cars. Now there's another space that has been transformed. Now we work with Daimler and Peugeot to connect their vehicles and to allow then users to interact with their cars in real time from an app, so that in Canada we can start the car and warm it up. Other places might cool it down before we get in. We can have a user experience with our vehicle that is transformative. And the car dealers as well, the manufacturers can then gather telemetry in real time and provide more proactive maintenance experience for their customers. If you think about the airline industry, where the sharing of simple events broadly, but in real time, completely changes the user experience. So boarding pass scans, so that they know who's on the plane and the status of the plane, and then can help and guide you as planes are delayed or the schedules change. If you think about luggage scanning, all the way from when you drop it off to when it is put on the plane, this information is broadly shared, gives a completely different and enhanced user experience and operational efficiencies as well. Now in the retail space, again, this transformation has been intense. And if you think about what's happened with COVID and how retailers have had to change their behavior for curbside pickup and various other types of initiatives that they've had, unifying customer systems of engagement, dealing with supply chain and fulfillment activities, it's been massive change. And Martin, we're lucky enough to have here, who will talk about how IKEA has responded to that. And in the transportation business, so many opportunities here related to monitoring the location of goods in transit, monitoring the environmental readings of perishable goods. And as slow as you might think ships are, Unilever, a customer of ours, has created what they call a virtual ocean control tower that's the first of its kind, and it's completely transformed how they manage sea freight logistics globally. And it's all based on events and machine learning. And then finally, event-driven architectures are helping transform to new business models or enable new business models. We have a customer of ours who, for example, sells elevators and escalators and would install them and then provide reactive maintenance. But now with the EDA approach, they can provide a more proactive management of these devices. So they sense in real time all the different sensors on elevators and escalators to allow them to offer proactive maintenance to their customers, and which then helps avoid downtime, but then also react very quickly to unplanned outages as a result of sensing what's going on these devices. And it's not only the real-time events happening on the devices that's important, it's had to transform their internal business processes as well, so that if you do have an outage, there needs to be an automated way of sensing that and then getting the right people to the right place at the right time to be able to provide that proactive service. And these are all only possible by adopting an event-driven architecture. And so really the value to the business of EDA is that it provides much more agility, innovation, efficiency, and responsiveness. And it does this in a way that really only an EDA approach can provide. You can't do this with other approaches to your IT architecture. And that's really why EDA has become such a transformational imperative to so many businesses. But this is only possible, this transformation is only possible really if you provide democratized access to real-time events that are occurring anywhere in your enterprise. And that's really where the pot of gold is. So only by providing easy access to this real-time data happening anywhere can you create applications in an agile way and deploy them. Can you innovate because you have the ability to see what's happening in your business in real time. You can respond in a more real-time manner. And so all these things are really possible if you provide this type of access to your events. And as with any large-scale transformation, it's not always that easy, right, to get to the pot of gold. And if I look at kind of the rainbow rings of things that you need to do on the way to your pot of gold, one of the key things is you need to connect your applications, your new and your old applications, you need to connect them together in real time. So if you look at the systems that run your business today, your CRM, your ERP, your supply chain management, these are the crown jewels that run your enterprise today. And those need to emit events as things change in your business. And those events need to be then consumed by your new applications, your analytics, your microservices, your serverless applications. You need to integrate them perhaps with iPaaS to integrate with SaaS applications that you're adopting. Then these applications, that need to be connected, they run in many places. And people instantly think of non-cloud, private cloud, and public clouds, and that's true. That's where applications run. But really, your enterprise, in many cases, extends into perhaps fleets or stores, factories, distribution centers, restaurants, gas stations. All these places are becoming more automated, more digital, and have applications running in those locations that need to interact with other applications running in your business. And then finally, you need to do all of this in an enterprise-grade manner. So you need to provide reliability and scale, performance, of course, security, business process continuity. And you need to do this across all of these environments and all these applications. So it can be a tough job. And in our view, in order to succeed in your EDA journey, you need two basic capabilities. First of all, you need an event streaming capability. And you need this to be able to then connect in real time all the things, all the applications, all the people in your enterprise. And you should really think of this as the Internet of Events for your enterprise. And we call this an event mesh, and Gartner calls this an event mesh. And what the event mesh does is it allows you to produce an event anywhere in your enterprise and have it consumed anywhere in your enterprise. So it's far more than a cluster of event brokers living in one particular place. It's this distributed mesh that allows this flow of real-time information. And this event mesh needs to exist, and then you need to be able to manage this distributed infrastructure as well. So that's capability number one. Capability number two is event management. This would allow you to then define and manage, search, reuse, govern all the events flowing over your event mesh, and to more easily build event-driven applications or event-driven integrations with tooling targeted towards app developers. And we do this with a product that we call Event Portal. An Event Portal is to events what an API portal is to your API management architecture. And if you think about the success of API management, the value that it's brought to your business, it has largely been because of the existence of these API management tools, and adopting an event-driven approach is no different. You need the same type of tool. So now let's look at those two capabilities and how Solace delivers on those. So first of all, with event streaming. Here you can see perhaps an architecture or components that are a subset of what you have. You see in the middle your non-cloud environment of your legacy applications. Over to the right are your private clouds, public clouds that you want to connect, and then maybe factories and branches. And you want to create an event mesh with all of these locations and all the applications that live in them. And now with Solace, that would mean that you start with mission control. Now, mission control is your single pane of glass to manage your event mesh in all of your locations. And to do that, what you do is you would deploy event brokers in all the locations that you have applications, and you deploy your event brokers close to your applications for the same reasons you deploy databases there, for performance and robustness, resiliency, and autonomous reasons. And then you want to connect them together so that events can be shared freely. And that's what mission control does for you. And these event brokers that are shown here, they're deployed inside your private environment, typically for enterprises. So inside your VPC in public clouds of Amazon, Azure, or Google, or even on-prem in your own Kubernetes deployment inside your data center, or inside your factories and your distribution centers and stores. Again, all managed from mission control. And this gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you the security and the control of deployment of event brokers in your own network. And it gives you the flexibility and the agility of a SaaS, because mission control is a SaaS that we manage and upgrade and provide for you to be able to manage your event brokers deployed in your own environment. And then Insights is another component that gives you operational visibility of your event mesh in terms of its performance and alerts and those types of activities to be able to properly operationalize your event mesh. Now, the second component is what we call Event Portal, to be able to provide event management. And the Event Portal is the single place to design, catalog, visualize, discover, and share all of your event streams across your enterprise. And it's the first product of its kind. And it is composed of a designer, a catalog, and a runtime discovery component. And the designer is where you design, let's say, your microservice applications. And you can see one here in the canvas, where you design applications, the events that they share, and the schemas for the data that is carried by those events. And you can see who produces them, who consumes them, and their relationships. And then it also allows you to create event API products, which are data products from your systems of record, from your CRM, your ERP, and to allow you to share those events broadly in your enterprise. And again, this is as critical a tool to your success in EDA as an API portal is to API management. And all these components are part of the PubSub platform, where you see streaming, insights, event management there, our brokers in the middle, and then client libraries and open protocols to be able to put events on and off the event mesh. And now, without further ado, let's jump into a quick demo of the Solace PubSub platform. So here we are in PubSub console. And the two components that I was talking about, mission control to manage your mesh, and event portal to manage the events and schemas and applications using the mesh. Now, first, we'll talk about mission control. Now, mission control has two components. The first one is cluster manager, which is used to deploy your event broker clusters and to upgrade them and to manage the clusters themselves. And then mesh manager, which is used then to connect your clusters together into an event mesh. So we'll go into cluster manager here. And what you see here are tiles for individual event broker services. And the first thing that you'll see is that they're deployed across multiple cloud types. So across GCP, across Azure, across AWS, and across different regions like Ireland, Central France, and Belgium. And there's many, many, many of them that you can see here deployed. And of course, I can just see the ones that belong to me. And there's one that I have pre-created here called EDA Summit. Now, a key part of Cluster Manager is to be able to create new broker services. So you can create an enterprise service where you have a certain number of connections and storage, or you can create a developer service, which is what I'm going to do here, which has 100 connections. So that's step number one, is choose your service type. Step number two is to select a cloud, which I'm going to select Google. Step number three is the region in that cloud, and I'm going to select Virginia on the East Coast. And then finally, I give it a name, my production cluster, and I start it up, and away it goes. And if I come back to my list here, you can see that if I just look at mine, my production one is starting up. Now, my EDA Summit one that I created before, I can go into that. You see its name here, and there's a whole bunch of tabs of things that you can do to that particular service, and we won't really have time for that today. Now, if I go over here to Mesh Manager, right, so I've created a cluster, and I want to connect it together in a mesh. Now, each of these tiles is an event mesh, and EDA Summit is the one that I'm going to use for this demonstration. And what you see here is that this mesh consists of 3 event brokers, the EDA Summit one that I told you guys about, and then another one in GCP and one in Ireland for AWS. And the whole point of this is to be able to then produce an event on one event broker and have it consumed by any other event broker. One thing you can do is you can run a health check on your event mesh. And what this does is it sends messages from each broker to each other broker to ensure that there's connectivity and to give you a view of the latency between the different points. So from US Central, for example, to EDA Summit is 33 milliseconds, but across the Atlantic is much longer, as you would expect. Okay, so now that I have my event mesh, as we were saying, the point is to be able to publish and subscribe anywhere. Now, if I choose my EDA Summit broker, and what I do is I go into that service, then what I can see, if I clean those up, is that, in the capabilities of that service that we talked about, and then I go into the Try Me tab here. And the Try Me tab is an HTML5 application that uses WebSockets to connect into the EDA Summit broker. So now I'm connected, and now I can subscribe to this Try Me topic. And what I can do is I can publish on the Try Me topic, and as you'd expect, it is received over on the subscriber side. Okay, so that's all good. Now, if I come back to my mesh, and what if I use the same tool and set that up for my other 2 brokers. Okay, so I go in here to US Central, I go to the Try Me tab, I connect the subscriber, I subscribe to my Try Me topic. And then I go into the EU West, I go to the Try Me tab, I connect to that broker, I subscribe to the Try Me topic. And now, if I go back to EDA Summit that you can see here, and I say hello world from EDA Summit, which I type properly, and I publish that message, I receive it from my own local broker, as you'd expect. But if I go over to US Central, I've received the same event there. And if I go here to EU West, I've received the event there as well. So that shows you that in my event mesh, if I publish one event from one event broker, it can be consumed by the other 2 brokers. So now, coming back to my main console and focusing on Event Portal, which has a designer used for designing events, catalog for searching, and discovery used to ensure that your event mesh is in sync with your Event Portal. If I go into designer, I can see the choreography of the way that applications and events interact with each other. So these icons are app domains. And so you'd have an app team, for example, that produces applications and events within them. But then also you can see app events exchanged between app domains. So here between ops and analytics, there are 5 events that flow between them. And this is what an enterprise architect would care about, is the interrelationship of app domains and the events that flow between them as a key interface point. Now, if I go into Acme Rideshare as an application, and I take a look in here, this is what application architects and developers would care about, which is, for example, the relationships of applications and events to each other. So if I look at, for example, the driver app, the applications are in green. It produces a trip updated event. And that trip updated event, as you can see from the arrows, is consumed by the billing app and is consumed by driver management, for example. So I can see visually which applications are consuming and producing which events. Now, if I look at the ride requested event as an example, and I open that up, I can see all kinds of information about it, such as the topic that carries it. Very importantly, we have to describe what that event is, when it happens, what the business moment is, and then the schema for the data that it carries. And so the schema carried by the ride requested event is the ride request schema, and I can click on view details here, and it shows me all the fields carried in that particular event, which is of course very important. And then down here I can see all the applications subscribing to that event. In this case, there's only one, and the application producing that event, such as the passenger app. So I can click on that one, and if I go inside, I can see everything that's defined about the passenger app, right? So information about a description, where the application design is, hyperlinked, where the source code is, hyperlinked, and hopefully these places hyperlink back into the application itself. I can see which events this application is subscribed to, which one it produces. And so I get all that information across events, schemas, and applications. And I can see a full application list, for example. And here's my passenger app with all of its information that you just saw. Okay. And so now over here, if I go to the catalog also is organized in events, schemas, and applications. And so I can see all of my events and all of the topics, for example, that are carried here, right, for these events. I can list them all. Same thing for schemas and applications. But very importantly, I can do a search. So for example, I can look for, let's say I want to do an analysis on surge pricing. So I can look for surge, and I can see that the driver accepted event has it in its content, and I see this surge multiplier. Maybe this is the schema that I'm interested in, and then it carries the data that I want, and I can go down to the bottom and see which events carry that schema. So I now know which events and which topics to subscribe to receive them. Okay. And finally, moving on to discovery, and I'm afraid we don't really have enough time to talk about that, but the discovery portion allows you to interrogate Solace and Kafka event brokers, and to be able to bring that data into the event portal so that you don't have to enter all of this by hand if you have an existing Solace or Kafka event broker running. And so that's it. That is the mission control, or quick demo of mission control and event portal. And now I'd like to hand it off to Martin to describe the IKEA experience of adopting EDA and the IKEA event mesh. And just as a way of introduction a little bit for Martin, he's not new to innovation. Martin is the one who identified the importance of APIs and API management many years ago, and brought it into IKEA and made it successful at IKEA. And now he's doing this again with the next evolution of their architecture into being event-driven. So again, thank you very much, Martin, for sharing your experience, and over to you.
Thanks, Shawn, for this nice introduction. As Shawn said, senior technology architect at IKEA. Currently, I'm responsible for 2 different architecture areas at IKEA. The first one are what we call the customer meeting points. So that is the IKEA website, so IKEA.com, the mobile app, and the store channel. Besides that one, am I also since last year responsible for the integration area, and there we have some interesting initiatives ongoing with the event mesh and the service mesh. So I will today cover our digital transformation that has been ongoing for a couple of years, and explain what the role is of the event mesh in this digital transformation, and also share our experiences with the Solace event mesh so far. But before we start with that one, I want to share a video, and this video shows how COVID not only changed the world but also changed IKEA. So as the video showed, has the COVID accelerated the digital transformation at IKEA. And maybe a good example are the stores. With COVID, we have been forced to close the stores. And what we have managed to do is transform these stores in fulfillment units overnight. So we turn the stores in a fulfillment unit overnight. And I think that is a big achievement. Then if you take a look at some facts and figures from IKEA, so you can read through these ones. So I will not walk through all of those. I will only pick the ones that are important from an event mesh perspective. So if you look at IKEA, we have 378 stores in 30 countries. We have 29 distribution centers in 18 countries, 54 customer distributor centers in 16 countries. So we have quite a large global footprint at IKEA. And it is a challenge to connect all these stores, all these data warehouses, the different data centers that we have, and nowadays also the different multi-clouds. And this is where the event mesh plays an important role, as we will see later on. So then if you take a look at the challenges, architecture challenges that we have been facing at IKEA, and I think these challenges are quite common for at least the retailers that existed before internet. So as most of those retailers, we started out with physical stores. So we had to have the systems running in our stores and to manage these stores and fulfillment. And then in our case, around the end of the 90s, we introduced our website. So we introduced an e-commerce platform. We introduced also a specific range, what we call the home delivery range. So that is the range that we display on the web and that we also sell on the web. At the same time, we had the store applications where we have the cash and carry range and the full serve range. And the web is not aware of the range in the store, and the stores are not aware of the range on the website. And then it becomes very cumbersome to create this seamless omni-channel customer experience. And then an example is, for example, the mobile app that we have at IKEA, connected to the APIs on the web. So the web, the mobile app works fine in a at-home scenario, but as soon as you go with the mobile, for example, in the store, you would try to scan items. It could happen that you couldn't scan an item because the item was part of the store range, but not part of the web range. So this shows a little bit the challenges of building this omni-channel customer experience if you have these siloed channels. The other thing which we have at IKEA, we have been very batch-oriented based. We have a large amount of point-to-point integrations between the systems. We are relying on monolithic vendor solutions. So historically, we have been developing quite a lot systems ourselves. We made a change back in around 2005, where we went for a sourcing strategy and went for a buy before build approach. But now in the digital transformation, again, we are developing more and more our systems ourselves, and especially in the areas where we want to distinguish from other competitors. And then, of course, we have locked in the data in these siloed core systems. So what do we then want to achieve with the modernization and this digitalization? So first of all, we want to unlock the data. So we want to get the data out of the system of records, get it into the cloud, and being able to perform analytics on it, and that way become data-driven. And as the figure on the right side shows, we have the customer in the middle. We want to know everything about the customer, but we also want to apply and become data-driven in all the other aspects of retail, in the range and product areas, and in, for example, also the fulfillment. And we have done a number of these initiatives the last couple of years, and a good example is related to product placement in the store. There we have been able to optimize it using the data analytics. So the picking of the store in the click and collect scenario is much more efficient now than it was before. Then if you want to become data driven, as Shawn also mentioned, you also have to become event driven. Because if you want to do your analytics, you want to be able to do your analytics immediately when the change happens. You don't want to run your analytics half an hour or half a day later because you don't have the information. And that way you become also real time. And that way you are able to give, for example, recommendations to a customer when they are entering a store. The last but not least is are the cloud, to become cloud native and cloud agnostic. So as I mentioned, are we present in several clouds? Our main or preferred cloud is GCP, but we are also active in AWS and in Azure, for example. Then to deal with the special markets like China and Russia that have the specific legal demands, which forces us to run solutions within the physical borders of the countries, do we also have Ali Cloud and Yandex. The digital transformation. So this picture shows the digital foundation that we are putting in place to enable this digital transformation. The digital transformation has been ongoing for a number of years. So we have also done a reorganization. We have put in place a number of digital hubs. We have created our agile, autonomous digital products. We have started unlocking the data from the core system of records, getting it in the cloud, being able to do the analytics, becoming event driven. And then on the top of that, we have the business APIs, which are the servers of our digital foundation. And those play an important role in decoupling the systems of engagement from the underlying system of records and new digital products. So we are driving an API first approach. These business APIs, they have their own life cycle, and that they are decoupling the system of engagements. And in regards to the system of engagements, we also have made a number of changes. We started with the web already before we started the digital transformation. So in the web, in IKEA website, IKEA.com, we went to a microservice front-end architecture. So we divided the front end in a number of different verticals with own teams, own products. They can develop the products in their own pace. They can release the products in their own pace, and that's where we are able to give much more value to the business with quick releases of new functionality. Then, if you look at this distributed hybrid environments, so then we get this challenge in regards to connectivity and event distribution. So this picture shows that we have a presence in Sweden on-prem with our data centers. We have in China on-prem, and then we have these different clouds, as I already mentioned. And when we started this digital transformation, because GCP is preferred, most teams went into GCP. And then when they started publishing events, they put them on Google PubSub. And that works fine for the team that is publishing, but it can be a problem for the team that is subscribing if they are not present in GCP, and that is quite often the case. And then those teams are forced to go into GCP, create a project, subscribe to the events, and then move these with an additional egress cost to where they are, for example, in Azure. And that is where we have seen the big advantage of the Solace event mesh, that it makes takes care of this distribution and connectivity and simplifies the life for the different product teams. So we put so with event mesh, which is in principle a network of brokers, do the events float between the publishers and subscribers, independent of where they are located. So that is the big advantage we see with the event mesh. So this is the location transparency. The other nice feature in Solace event mesh is the filtering and routing. So what we have seen in Google PubSub, for example, I think they fix it now, is that you cannot do the filtering and routing on the sending side, so that has to be done on the receiving side. So you're sending a lot of data to the subscribers that they actually don't want to have. So in Solace, the brokers know the sending brokers know that who is subscribed to what, and they will only send the events that you actually have subscribed on. Then the last part. So what have we done with the event mesh? So we started with the event mesh and then the proof of concept just around the summer, after the summer. What we normally do when we run this proof of concept is we define the most significant use cases. We know where the pains are, so those ones we want to address in the proof of concept. And the proof of concept we had here was actually in China. So we didn't take the easiest use case, we took an edge use case running in China. And there in China we have a little bit of a specific setup for IKEA. So besides IKEA.cn, we also do have a presence since 9 months ago on Tmall in China. And for Tmall and IKEA.cn, we have two different TSP, transport service provider networks set up. And in this use case, it's about dispatch events that have to be sent to the transport service providers and also to the customers. So it's important to route the request, the events to the right subscribers, depending on in which channel the orders are created. So we put the mesh in place in China. So we created the mesh between the data center in China, our data center in China, and Ali Cloud. And we are live since February this year. We could have gone live earlier. There was quite some testing left, but from an event mesh perspective, did we go live already in December. So far, it has been working fine. The biggest advantage for the business has been that it has been very easy to hook up new transport service providers. So for the 6 transport service providers we hooked up, it normally would have taken 18 weeks. And now with the event mesh, it only takes 2 weeks. And that is, of course, a big advantage. And I think it's in general an advantage with the event mesh, because compared to this point-to-point integrations, if you have the event mesh in place, you just have to hook up a subscriber, and the events are already floating, and the events that the subscriber wants to have, he will receive automatically. So I think in general it will reduce the time to market for new event-based integrations. Then as a next step, we also connected the China mesh to the global mesh. So we set up the global mesh in our data centers in Sweden and in Google GCP Europe West 4. Next step is Russia. So add Russia to the event mesh. We are onboarding product teams, mainly in the fulfillment and the custom area. I think around 8 at this stage. So there's a big interest of the different product teams, especially now they see that we solve these difficult use cases like Russia and China. We are together with Solace looking into the future store and warehouses to find out, okay, what are the requirements and how can we support these with the event mesh. Then to the last part, we haven't unfortunately not have time to look into the event portal, but with my API management background, I have high expectations on the event portal and also the integration with the Solace cloud. And as I mentioned, we are driving this API first and API product approach at IKEA, as you saw in the previous diagram related to the business APIs. And we put the same expectations on our vendors, and not only for the event mesh, but we do it also for the API management or the service mesh. And the reason is that we want to get the automation and the self-service in place. So I see a central role for the portal in that sense, that there should our publishers and subscribers be able to do everything themselves. So they should be able to publish events, you should be able to subscribe events, and then the configuration of the underlying event mesh will be done and will be automated. So they should not have to be dealing with access control lists or queue configuration. Yeah, that is what I wanted to share so far. So I hope it was interesting, and I hope worthwhile listening. Yeah, Martin Hilferink. So if you want, please feel free to reach out either via LinkedIn or via my email address. And I think now it's time for a Q&A, Shawn.